The Education and Labor Committee meets today to examine historic legislation that will finally end legal discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. H.R. 3017, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, will ensure that employment decisions are based on merit and performance and not prejudice. 29 states permit employers to make critical employment decisions based solely on an employee's sexual orientation. In 38 states, it's perfectly legal to discriminate based on gender identity. If you happen to live in one of these states, employers can legally fire, refuse to hire, demote, or pass over you for a promotion on the basis of your sexual orientation or gender identity. Because of this, 172 million Americans are subject to legal employment discrimination, including those who work for state governments. Fully qualified individuals are being denied employment or being fired from their jobs for completely non-work-related reasons. This is profoundly unfair and indeed un-American, and it is bad for business. Tellingly, major businesses have adopted policies to ensure that they are able to attract and retain the best, most qualified employees, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. They have done so both because it's the right thing to do and because it helps their bottom line. Our entire workforce and our nation's competitiveness will benefit from ensuring that every worker is judged on how they do their job, not who they are. If we do nothing, untold numbers of American workers will continue to work with the legitimate fear that they would be fired for nothing more than who they love or their gender identity. The Employment Non-Discrimination Act would protect all Americans from this type of injustice by extending employment discrimination protections for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and heterosexual workers. It would prohibit businesses with 15 or more employees, employment agencies, government agencies, and labor unions from using sexual orientation or gender identity as a basis for employment decisions. The Employment Non-Discrimination Act provides the same procedures for handling workers' grievances as Title VII employment discrimination claims. The bill will also exempt religious organizations from covering using the exact language found in Title VII of the Civil Rights Act and supported by more than 400 members in the last Congress. Today we'll hear from three panels of witnesses on this legislation. I'd like to recognize the strong leadership of our first panel, Representative Barney Frank and Tammy Baldwin. It's because of their tireless efforts that we are here today debating this important legislation. I'm also pleased to welcome a representative of the Obama administration to give their perspective on Employment Non-Discrimination Act. Our last panel, we will hear testimony from a Georgia State legislative employee who was fired after she was informed her supervisor that she intended to undergo gender reassignment. In addition, two expert witnesses will present extensive records documenting the longstanding and widespread pattern of discriminatory actions by state and local governments against their lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender employees. One will discuss the role prejudice played when he was denied a promotion at State University. Another witness will talk about the balance that the Employment Non-Discrimination Act strikes between civil rights workers and the interests of religious organizations. For more than 3 decades, gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender Americans have waged a courageous campaign for their workplace rights. I regret that it had to wait so long for us to respond. We took a big step forward in 2007 when the House held its first ever hearing, committee votes, and House passage of the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. Unfortunately, President Bush threatened to veto the Employment Non-Discrimination Act if it reached his desk at that time. But today we have a new opportunity. We have a new president who supports the civil rights of all Americans and has vowed to sign the legislation into law. I look forward to the hearing from all of our witnesses today on this very important bill.